The morning started like any other day for Katie Morgan as she worked on the deep space sensors at Luna Colony. She had been fixing machines and reading data for 3 years now, ever since Earth built its first real base on the moon. The coffee was terrible. The air recyclers made weird noises, and her boss always complained about the budget. But Katie loved her job because she got to look at the stars every single day. The sensor array was humanity's best attempt at watching for dangerous things coming from deep space. Most people on Earth thought it was just for asteroids and space junk, but Katie knew better. The military had been very interested in this project, and they did not spend billions of credits just to watch for rocks. Something out there worried them, and that something was probably not friendly. Katie was running her morning checks when the computer started beeping in a way she had never heard before. The main screen showed readings that made no sense at all. According to the sensors, something massive had just appeared near the moon, but that was impossible. Nothing could move that fast or that quietly. She checked the systems twice, then 3 times, but the reading stayed the same. The object was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. It measured over 2 kilometers long and was giving off energy signatures that their computers could not identify. Katie felt her hands shake as she reached for the emergency communication button. This was either the biggest equipment failure in history, or humanity had just discovered they were not alone in the universe. Jake Phillips was having a boring morning at the communications center when Katie's emergency signal came through. He had been monitoring radio signals from Earth and the various mining stations scattered around the solar system, but nothing exciting ever happened during the day shift. Most of his job involved routing messages and making sure the communication arrays stayed pointed in the right directions. The emergency tone made him sit up straight in his chair. Katie Morgan was one of the most careful engineers at Luna Colony, and she never called for help unless something was really wrong. When Jake opened her channel, he could hear the worry in her voice even through the static. "Jake, I need you to confirm something for me," Katie said. "Are you reading any large objects in lunar orbit on your screens?" Jake checked his displays and found nothing unusual. "Negative, Katie. I show normal traffic patterns and the scheduled supply run from Earth Station 3. Check frequency band 7 through 12. Use maximum sensitivity." Jake adjusted his equipment and nearly fell out of his chair. The screen filled with data from something that should not exist. A massive structure was sitting in space just outside the moon's gravity well, and it was sending out signals on frequencies that human technology barely understood. The signals were not random noise or natural phenomena. They followed mathematical patterns that clearly showed intelligence behind them. Someone or something was trying to communicate. And they were using math because math worked the same way everywhere in the universe. Admiral Lisa Carter was in her office reviewing supply reports when the emergency communication came in. She had commanded the Earth-Luna Defense Network for 2 years, and most of her emergencies involved broken equipment or scheduling problems. The defense network was humanity's way of protecting their space colonies, but everyone knew it was mostly for show. Earth had no real enemies among the stars, so the weapons and sensor systems existed mainly to make politicians feel safer. The message from Jake Phillips changed everything in just a few seconds. Admiral Carter listened to the recording of the alien signals 3 times before she believed what she was hearing. The mathematical sequences were basic but clear. Someone was sending the numbers for pi, then the Fibonacci sequence, then prime numbers. It was exactly what human scientists had always said would be the first message from an alien civilization. Admiral Carter activated the emergency protocols that she had hoped never to use. Within minutes, alerts went out to every military base on Earth and in the solar system. The president would need to be informed, and the United Nations would have to meet an emergency session. Humanity was about to discover if they were ready for contact with beings from other worlds. The alien ship remained in position for 6 hours before it sent its next message. This time the signal came through on standard human communication frequencies, and the voice that spoke was clearly using some kind of translation system. "Greetings to the inhabitants of the third world of this system," the voice said. It sounded strange, like several voices talking at the same time, but the words were perfectly clear. "We are representatives of the hegemony, and we bring peaceful contact to your species." Admiral Carter found herself talking to beings from another world, something that no human in history had ever done before. The alien who called himself Commander Zephytar spoke in a friendly way, but there was something in his tone that reminded her of adults talking to children. "We have been observing your species for some time," Commander Zephytar explained. "Your people show promise, and the hegemony is prepared to offer you the benefits of galactic civilization. We can provide technology, medicine, and protection from the dangers that exist among the stars." The offer sounded wonderful, but Admiral Carter had not survived 30 years in the military by accepting deals that seemed too good to be true. She asked for time to discuss the offer with Earth's governments, and Commander Zephytar agreed to wait for their answer. "Take all the time you need," the alien commander said. "We understand that this is a significant moment for your species. However, I should mention that the benefits we offer are available only to species that accept our guidance. Those who choose to remain isolated often find the galaxy to be a very dangerous place." After the communication ended, Admiral Carter sat in her office and thought about what had just happened. The aliens seemed friendly, but their offer felt more like an ultimatum. They spoke about guidance and protection, but what they were really talking about was control. Katie Morgan was still at her sensor station, watching the alien ship and thinking about the future. The beings from the stars had advanced technology that could help humanity reach new worlds and solve many problems, but something about their attitude bothered her. They acted like humans were children who needed to be taken care of, and Katie did not think that was true at all. Humans had built cities, traveled to other planets, and created amazing technologies in just a few thousand years. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that should have destroyed them completely. Maybe they were new to space travel, but that did not make them helpless or stupid. Admiral Carter made her decision and activated Protocol 7, humanity's most secret defense program. If the aliens wanted to treat humans like children, they were about to learn that human children could be very dangerous when threatened. Dr. Kelvan examined the human data with the same interest he might show for a new type of insect. As the hegemony's leading expert on primitive species, he had studied hundreds of worlds before their integration into galactic civilization. The humans appeared to follow the same patterns as most other developing species, which made them predictable and easy to manage. The physical measurements were typical for a Class C species. Humans lived only about 80 standard years, which was barely enough time to learn basic skills. Their bodies were weak compared to warrior races like the Draknari, and their brains showed none of the advanced neural structures found in the cerebral species. Most disappointing of all, they had only recently developed space travel and still used primitive chemical rockets for most of their transportation. Dr. Kelvan noted that human society was chaotic and divided. They had over 200 separate governments on their home world, and these groups often fought each other over resources that advanced technology could easily create. Their planet showed clear signs of environmental damage from inefficient industrial processes. Everything about them suggested a species that desperately needed guidance from their betters. The human military capabilities were almost laughable. Their largest warships were smaller than hegemony transport vessels, and their weapons used simple kinetic energy or basic explosive devices. They had no energy shields, no faster-than-light communication systems, and no understanding of quantum physics beyond theoretical mathematics. Any single hegemony battlecruiser could destroy their entire space fleet without taking damage. Commander Zephytar received Dr. Kelvan's report with satisfaction. The humans would be easy to integrate, just like dozens of other primitive species over the centuries. Their scientists might provide some entertainment with their crude but creative approaches to simple problems, and their artists could add variety to the hegemony's cultural archives. The rest of the population would serve well as workers in the outer colonies, where their short lifespans would not matter much. When Admiral Carter requested a formal meeting, Commander Zephytar was pleased by this sign of human intelligence. Most primitive species needed several demonstrations of hegemony power before they accepted the wisdom of cooperation. The humans seemed smart enough to recognize superior civilization when they saw it. The meeting location was chosen carefully. Hegemony Station Nexus 7 was one of their most impressive diplomatic platforms, designed to show visiting species the vast scope of galactic civilization. The station measured 15 kilometers across and housed over 1 million beings from hundreds of different worlds. Its technology was so advanced that most primitive species could not even understand what they were seeing. Commander Zephytar brought only a small security detail and his fastest diplomatic vessel. After all, the humans had no way to threaten a hegemony station, and their primitive ships could barely reach it. This was meant to be a simple negotiation, followed by the standard integration procedures that had worked successfully for centuries. Admiral Carter arrived with a delegation that seemed appropriately nervous and overwhelmed. Dr. Ben Harrison kept staring at the alien technology with obvious amazement, while Captain Amy Rodriguez appeared tense and alert in the way of primitive warriors. Diplomat Henry Walsh tried to maintain professional composure, but his stress indicators were clearly visible to anyone with basic medical training. The humans wore simple uniforms and carried no visible weapons, which showed proper respect for hegemony diplomatic protocols. They moved carefully through the station corridors, obviously intimidated by the advanced alien architecture around them. Commander Zeftar was pleased to see that they understood their place in the galactic hierarchy. The formal negotiations took place in the station's main diplomatic chamber, a vast room designed to impress visitors with holographic displays of hegemony territory. The three-dimensional star maps showed thousands of worlds under alien control, representing a civilization that spanned half the known galaxy. Commander Zeftar explained the integration offer in terms that the primitive humans could understand. Their species would be relocated to suitable worlds where they could live safely under hegemony protection. Their brightest individuals would receive proper education in advanced technologies and efficient social structures. Their homeworld's resources would be managed by experts who understood how to use them without causing environmental damage. In return, humanity would provide labor for various hegemony projects and serve as subjects for sociological research. Their unique cultural perspectives might prove useful for understanding other primitive species encountered in the future. It was a generous offer that provided far more benefits than most Class C species received during integration. Dr. Harrison asked several questions about the alien technologies, showing the kind of curiosity that primitive scientists often displayed when first exposed to advanced civilization. Captain Rodriguez remained mostly silent, but her eyes moved constantly around the room in a way that suggested military training. Diplomat Walsh took careful notes and asked about the specific terms of the integration treaty. The humans seemed particularly interested in the hegemonies, faster-than-light travel systems, and energy generation methods. Commander Zeftar was happy to provide basic explanations, though he kept the technical details simple enough for their primitive minds to follow. He even allowed Dr. Harrison to examine some of the non-critical equipment in the station's public areas. Admiral Carter listened to everything with the kind of focused attention that suggested intelligence, even if it was limited by her species' biological constraints. She asked thoughtful questions about the timeline for integration and the specific roles that humans would play in galactic civilization. Her military background was obvious, but she seemed to understand that resistance would be futile against superior technology. When the humans requested time to consider the offer, Commander Zeftar granted them 30 standard cycles without hesitation. This was longer than most species needed to make the obvious choice. But humans appeared to have more complex social structures that might require additional consultation time. Dr. Kelvan observed the human delegation as they prepared to leave the station. Their stress indicators had decreased during the meeting, which suggested that they were beginning to accept the reality of their situation. Captain Rodriguez had relaxed somewhat, though she still maintained the alert posture of a professional warrior. The humans thanked their hosts politely and departed in their primitive vessel, promising to deliver the hegemony's offer to their world leaders. Commander Zeftar watched their ship disappear into faster-than-light travel and felt satisfied with the progress of the negotiations. None of the aliens noticed the tiny devices that Captain Rodriguez had quietly placed in various locations throughout the station during their tour. The objects were smaller than dust particles and designed to look like normal debris that might accumulate in any large structure. They transmitted no signals and drew no power, appearing completely inert to even the most sensitive scanning equipment. But the devices were far from inert, and they were already beginning their real purpose. 29 cycles had passed since the human delegation left Hegemony Station Nexus 7, and Commander Zeftar was beginning to feel impatient. Most primitive species made their decision within 10 cycles, either accepting integration willingly or requiring a demonstration of hegemony power to help them understand their situation. The humans were taking an unusually long time to reach the obvious conclusion. Dr. Kelvon had spent the waiting period analyzing all available data about human civilization. His reports confirmed the initial assessment that they were a typical Class C species with no unusual capabilities. Their technology remained primitive, their military forces were laughably weak, and their social structures showed the same inefficiencies found in hundreds of other developing worlds. The only thing that seemed different about humans was their apparent stubbornness. Most species recognized the benefits of joining galactic civilization after seeing just a small sample of hegemony technology. The humans had toured one of the most advanced stations in known space and still needed time to consider their options. Commander Zeftar decided that human slowness was probably due to their complex political structures. With over 200 separate governments, they likely needed extra time to build consensus among their various tribal leaders. This was another sign of their primitive nature. But it was not entirely unexpected for a species that had not yet learned proper social organization. On the 29th cycle, Admiral Carter finally sent her response. The message was brief and formal, stating that humanity had reached a decision and was ready to provide their answer to the hegemony's generous offer. Commander Zeftar was pleased that they had chosen to respond before the deadline expired. The human admiral requested that the formal acceptance ceremony take place in their home system, claiming this was an important tradition for their species when making significant agreements. She suggested a location between their third and fourth planets, where both fleets could meet safely in neutral space. Commander Zeftar found this request amusing but harmless. Many primitive species had strange customs related to their home territories, and allowing them to maintain some dignity during integration usually made the process smoother. He agreed to the human proposal and began assembling an appropriate fleet for the ceremony. The hegemony battle group consisted of 50 ships, including the massive flagship Eternal Dominion. This was far more firepower than needed to deal with primitive humans, but Commander Zeftar wanted to make an impression that would be remembered throughout their integration process. The sight of superior technology would help convince any humans who still harbored thoughts of resistance. Dr. Kelvon joined the fleet aboard his research vessel, bringing equipment to begin preliminary studies of human biology and psychology. He planned to collect data that would be useful for managing the species during their relocation to appropriate worlds. The more they understood about human behavior, the easier it would be to keep them productive and content in their new roles. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the designated coordinates and found empty space. Commander Zeftar was not concerned by this, since primitive species often had difficulty with precise navigation. The humans were probably somewhere nearby, struggling with their crude positioning systems. After several minutes of scanning, the hegemony sensors detected a single small vessel approaching from the direction of the human home world. The ship was even smaller than the one that had visited Nexus 7, barely large enough to hold a diplomatic party. Commander Zeftar wondered if the humans were having technical difficulties with their larger ships. Captain Rodriguez appeared on the communication screen, now wearing the uniform of someone with higher authority than during her previous appearance. Her expression was calm and professional, showing none of the nervousness that had been visible during the station meeting. "Greetings, Commander Zeftar," she said politely. "We appreciate you coming to our system for this important ceremony. Admiral Carter and our leadership are ready to provide humanity's answer to your generous offer." Admiral Carter appeared on screen next, flanked by General Pete Collins and several other human military officers. Her bearing was confident and relaxed, which Commander Zeftar took as a sign that she had accepted the wisdom of cooperation with superior civilization. "We have carefully considered your offer," Admiral Carter said with what appeared to be a genuine smile. "We have discussed it with our governments, our scientists, and our military leaders. After extensive deliberation, we have reached a unanimous decision." Commander Zeftar leaned forward with interest. A unanimous decision was unusual for such a politically fragmented species, but it suggested that human leaders were more intelligent than initial assessments had indicated. "We appreciate the generous terms you have offered," Admiral Carter continued. "We understand that the hegemony has successfully integrated many species into galactic civilization. However, after careful consideration, we must respectfully decline your offer. Earth will remain independent." The words took several seconds to register in Commander Zeftar's mind. No species in hegemony history had ever declined integration when it was offered voluntarily. The benefits were so obvious and the alternatives so unpleasant that refusal was essentially unthinkable. "I believe there may be some misunderstanding," Commander Zeftar replied carefully. "Perhaps your translation systems have not properly conveyed the full scope of what we are offering. Integration into galactic civilization provides protection, technology, and guidance that your species desperately needs. We understand your offer perfectly," Admiral Carter said. "But we have decided that humanity prefers to find its own path among the stars. We hope that the hegemony will respect this decision and allow us to develop our own civilization in peace." Commander Zeftar felt his patience finally run out. If humans were too primitive to accept the benefits of civilization, they would need to learn through more direct methods. The galaxy was full of hostile species and dangerous phenomena that would quickly destroy any world that lacked proper protection. Humanity would beg for hegemony guidance after they experienced just a fraction of the threats that existed beyond their tiny system. "I regret that your species has chosen this path," Commander Zeftar announced. "However, the hegemony cannot allow primitive civilizations to endanger themselves through ignorance. If you will not accept our guidance willingly, we will be forced to provide it through other means." The hegemony fleet powered up their weapon systems and began moving toward the human homeworld. 50 advanced warships against a single small diplomatic vessel was hardly a fair fight. But primitive species needed to learn harsh lessons about the reality of galactic civilization. That was when Dr. Ben Harrison activated the gift that humanity had been preparing since the first alien transmission was detected weeks earlier. Every piece of hegemony technology within the human solar system suddenly went dark as their quantum virus began rewriting the fundamental operating codes of alien computer systems. The first thing Commander Zeftar noticed was the silence. The constant humming of the Eternal Dominion's engines had stopped, along with the soft beeping sounds from various control systems throughout the bridge. Emergency lighting flickered on as the main power systems failed, casting strange shadows across the faces of confused alien crew members. Dr. Kelvan watched his research equipment shut down piece by piece, each system displaying error messages in languages that made no sense. The quantum computers that controlled life support were trying to reboot themselves over and over again, but something was preventing them from completing their startup sequences. Even his personal datapad had gone completely dark. Across the hegemony fleet, similar scenes were playing out on every single ship. The massive battlecruiser Voidhammer lost power to its weapon systems, just as the gunner was preparing to fire on the human vessel. The fast attack ships found their engines dead in space, leaving them drifting helplessly in the vacuum between planets. Admiral Carter watched the alien fleet go dark through the view screen of her command ship, the Defiance. The vessel had been built in secret over the past few weeks, using technology that humanity had developed by studying every piece of alien equipment they could get their hands on. It looked nothing like the primitive ships the aliens expected humans to possess. "All hegemony vessels have lost power," reported Captain Rodriguez from her station. "The quantum virus has successfully infected their primary computer systems. They are completely helpless." Dr. Ben Harrison smiled as he monitored the virus he had created. It was not like anything the aliens had ever encountered because it was not based on their understanding of how computer systems should work. Human programmers had always been willing to break rules and try impossible things, while alien technology followed careful patterns that had worked for thousands of years. The virus used quantum uncertainty as a weapon, creating random errors in alien computer codes that made their systems crash and restart endlessly. Every time the alien computers tried to fix themselves, the virus would change the rules they were using, like trying to solve a math problem where the numbers kept changing every few seconds. General Pete Collins activated the communication system and spoke directly to the trapped alien fleet. "Commander Zeftar, this is General Collins of the Earth Defense Force. Your ships are currently experiencing technical difficulties due to a computer virus that we introduced into your systems during our previous meeting." Commander Zeftar tried to respond, but his communication equipment was dead like everything else on his ship. He could only listen as the human general continued speaking. "The virus is designed to spread through any connected system," General Collins explained. "It has already infected every piece of technology you brought into our solar system, including personal devices, life support systems, and emergency backup computers. You are completely at our mercy. Dr. Harrison took over the communication channel to explain how humans had approached the problem of dealing with superior alien technology. While other species apparently developed new tools through careful research and gradual improvement, humans had a different method that the aliens found disturbing. We break things apart to see how they work, Dr. Harrison said cheerfully. When you showed us your station and your equipment, we were not just admiring your advanced civilization. We were studying every detail, learning how your technology functions, and figuring out how to make it better. The quantum virus was only the first surprise that humanity had prepared for their unwelcome visitors. Admiral Carter gave a signal, and the space around the disabled alien fleet suddenly filled with ships that had not been there moments before. The new human vessels appeared from nowhere as their stealth systems deactivated. They were sleek and fast, built using hybrid technology that combined human innovation with alien engineering principles. There were dozens of them, surrounding the hegemony fleet from every direction. Katie Morgan was aboard one of the new ships, the Horizon Explorer, serving as chief engineer for humanity's first true space warship. The vessel could move faster than anything the aliens had built, and its weapons drew power from controlled quantum reactions that made alien energy systems look like primitive batteries. The stealth technology works perfectly, Katie reported to Admiral Carter. The aliens never detected our approach, and their sensors still cannot get a clear reading on our ships even with stealth systems offline. Captain Rodriguez revealed the final part of humanity's trap from her position aboard the command vessel. The microscopic devices she had planted throughout the alien station weeks earlier had not just been collecting information. They had been manufacturing copies of themselves, spreading through the hegemony fleet like a technological infection. Every alien ship is now completely mapped and monitored by our surveillance network, Captain Rodriguez announced. We know the location of every crew member, every weapon system, and every critical component aboard their vessels. They have no secrets from us. Commander Zeftar finally understood the scope of human preparation as emergency power flickered weakly through his ship's corridors. The species he had dismissed as primitive had been planning this moment since their first contact. While the hegemony had been making diplomatic preparations, humanity had been preparing for war. Dr. Kelvon realized that all his research about human capabilities had been completely wrong. The beings he had classified as a simple Class C species possessed technology that surpassed hegemony science in several key areas. Their weapons were more powerful, their ships were faster, and their computer systems were far more advanced than anything. In the alien databases, Admiral Carter opened a communication channel to the helpless alien commander and spoke with the same calm professionalism she had shown during their first meeting. Commander Zeftar, you made a critical error in your assessment of humanity, she said. You assumed that being new to space travel made us primitive and helpless. You forgot that being new means we have not learned what is supposed to be impossible yet. The human admiral explained that humanity had spent the past few weeks reverse engineering alien technology and improving it using methods that galactic civilization had never tried. While other species built tools that lasted for thousands of years, humans built tools that could be constantly upgraded and modified. Your people have been using the same basic technologies for millennia, Admiral Carter continued. You have forgotten how to innovate because you never needed to compete with anyone who might be better than you. General Collins took over the communication to deliver humanity's ultimatum to the trapped alien fleet. The hegemony ships were given a simple choice that would determine their immediate future and possibly the future of galactic civilization itself. You can return to your space and inform the galaxy that Earth is off limits to further interference, General Collins announced. Or you can remain here as permanent guests while we study your technology and learn more about galactic civilization. Commander Zeftar listened to the human ultimatum and realized that his species had just encountered something completely new in their thousands of years of galactic dominance. They had found a civilization that was not afraid of superior technology and would not submit to superior force. Commander Zeftar made his choice within hours of receiving the human ultimatum. The hegemony fleet would return to their own territory and report what had happened in the human solar system. He understood that staying would mean permanent captivity, and his duty was to warn galactic civilization about this new threat that had appeared among the stars. The humans allowed the alien ships to restore basic life support and navigation systems, but kept their weapons and communication arrays disabled until they were well outside human space. Dr. Kelvin spent the journey home, trying to understand how his analysis of human capabilities had been so completely wrong. Word of the hegemony defeat spread through galactic civilization faster than anyone expected. Within days of the fleet's return, every major species in known space had heard some version of the story. A primitive world that barely understood space travel had captured and released an entire hegemony battle group without losing a single ship. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss what they were already calling the human problem. Representatives from dozens of worlds gathered to hear Dr. Kelvin present his revised analysis of human capabilities to an audience that found his conclusions almost impossible to believe. Dr. Kelvin explained that humans did not follow the normal patterns of technological development that governed every other known species. Instead of building on existing knowledge through careful research, they approached problems by breaking established rules and trying methods that conventional science said would not work. The human quantum virus was a perfect example of their unusual thinking. No other species would have thought to use quantum uncertainty as a weapon, because it violated basic principles of how computer systems were supposed to function. Humans had turned the randomness of quantum physics into a tool for creating controlled chaos in alien technology. Their ship designs were equally revolutionary. While galactic civilization had spent thousands of years perfecting stable, efficient vessels that could operate reliably for centuries, humans had built ships that could be constantly modified and upgraded. Their technology was designed to evolve rapidly, rather than remain unchanged. Most disturbing of all was human psychology. Other species became cautious and conservative as they gained knowledge about the dangers of the galaxy. Humans seemed to become more aggressive and confident when they learned about new challenges, treating impossible problems as interesting puzzles to solve. The Galactic Council debated humanity for weeks without reaching any clear decisions. Some representatives wanted to organize a massive military response to eliminate the human threat before it could spread. Others argued that humans might be useful allies against common enemies like the machine intelligences that occasionally appeared from deep space. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Carter found herself dealing with very different problems. First Contact had succeeded beyond anyone's wildest expectations, but now humanity faced difficult choices about their future role in galactic civilization. They could remain safely isolated in their solar system, or they could venture out into a galaxy that now viewed them as either a threat or a valuable prize. Dr. Harrison strongly supported human expansion beyond their home system. He argued that human innovation required new challenges and problems to solve, and the galaxy offered unlimited opportunities for discovery and growth. Staying isolated would eventually lead to stagnation and decline as their species lost the drive to push boundaries. Captain Rodriguez, promoted to admiral after her successful intelligence operation, supported establishing human colonies in nearby star systems. Earth's population was growing rapidly, and they needed new worlds to accommodate the expansion. More importantly, they needed strategic positions throughout local space to prevent other species from surrounding and trapping them. Katie Morgan had already designed ships capable of traveling to distant star systems using the hybrid technology they had developed from studying alien equipment. Her new vessels combined human creativity with alien engineering principles, resulting in craft that were faster and more efficient than anything either civilization had produced independently. The decision came from an unexpected source that changed everything about humanity's relationship with galactic civilization. Diplomat Henry Walsh had been quietly receiving communications from alien species throughout the weeks following the hegemony incident, and these messages painted a very different picture of galactic politics than anyone had expected. 17 different species had sent secret messages to Earth, requesting trade agreements and mutual defense treaties. Each message contained essentially the same information. Many worlds were tired of hegemony domination and wanted human protection from their former overlords. The aliens offered raw materials, scientific data, and strategic information in exchange for human technology and military support. Several species specifically requested help in defending their worlds from hegemony retaliation for showing Interest in human friendship, Admiral. Carter realized that humanity had accidentally started a galactic revolution simply by refusing to submit to alien authority. Their demonstration of superior technology had inspired other species to believe that the hegemony could be challenged successfully. 3 months after first contact, Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of humanity's first interstellar colony ship, the Pioneer Spirit. The massive vessel carried 10,000 volunteers who would establish Earth's first colony beyond their solar system. Behind them, Earth continued developing new technologies at an exponential rate that amazed even their creators. Dr. Harrison served as the mission's chief scientist, leading a team that included experts from several alien species who had defected to join the human expansion effort. Katie Morgan commanded the engineering department that kept the revolutionary ship functioning as it traveled faster than light toward their destination. The Pioneer Spirit was followed by a fleet of smaller vessels carrying supplies, equipment, and additional colonists to humanity's new world. Each ship used technology that had not existed just months earlier, developed through the combination of human innovation and alien scientific knowledge. Admiral Carter received regular reports from Earth about other human expeditions preparing to launch. Within a year, there would be human colonies in dozens of star systems throughout local space. Within a decade, human territory would rival the hegemony in size and surpass it in technological advancement. As the Pioneer Spirit engaged its hybrid drive system and disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Admiral Carter sent one final message back to Earth and the Galactic Council. The transmission was simple but carried implications that would reshape galactic civilization for generations to come. Humanity thanks the galaxy for the warm welcome. We look forward to showing you what else we have been working on. The age of human expansion had begun, and the universe was about to discover just how dangerous a species could be when they refused to accept that anything was truly impossible. Other civilizations had conquered through superior force or advanced technology, but humans were about to conquer through something far more powerful: the absolute refusal to give up when faced with overwhelming odds.